Good morning and welcome to the Real Prosperity Project. Happy Thursday. We are Tanisha Tearing and
And Charlene Reedman. How's everybody doing today?
I hope everybody is good. Thank you so much for joining us. So, the Real Prosperity Project is prosperity in all areas of life. It encompasses more than just financial success, it includes emotional, physical, social, and spiritual well being. And we want to share our real life experiences and lessons learned with people, overcoming challenges and moments of triumph. We are excited to share our journey with others to support you in cultivating attitudes of belief that foster abundance and growth in your daily life. This is to help develop a mindset of prosperity that not only benefits you, but also inspires others around you. And we are so excited for today's episode. We are continuing our topic of the mind, their mental gym. And today we have something special in store for you, Charlene.
Yeah, I'm super excited. We have a special guest speaker today. And when I met this young man a few years back, I think he was just starting his journey into personal development, but I'm not going to take away from his story. But he is a mentor to both Tanisha and I, him and his wife. He has a beautiful wife, by the way, and they have a huge heart. Like the two of them together they're an amazing couple. And I think today, like for us having Chad Thompson on our call, is I think it's really going to hit home for a lot of our listeners of you know where you can actually shift, and we talked about it, shift to becoming who you really want to become, because like we talked about last time, everything you've done up to today, everything that you've entered your life into has brought you to the journey of today. And if you're happy with that, awesome. But I think we always can improve. And I think Chad's going to be a great inspiration for everybody on how to make some of those changes. So, Chad, welcome to our little podcast. We're so excited to have you.
Awesome. Well, hey, I'm super excited to be here today and spend some time with you guys. So, yeah, it's great, and I love what you guys are doing. I love the message about it. I think it's so important, and kind of what you said, Charlene. I don't think you should ever stop growing, right? I mean, if I find if people are like, no, I'm good, that's called settling,
Yes.
and I never wanted to settle ever in my life. Um, it to me it's a bit sad. I see a lot of people doing it. And it's kind of what we're taught. Unfortunately, we go to school for 12 years, and we get recess and lunch and recess, and we go home and we have homework, and then we watch TV and have dinner, and you know get our chores done. And we leave work we leave school and we go get a job, and it's 9 to 5, very similar to school. And we don't get recess anymore. I think it'd be cool, but you get coffee break, right, which is adult recess,
Yep.
and lunch, and then we go home, we make dinner, we watch TV and do our chores, and that kind of becomes the routine for a lot of people. And they settle in, and unfortunately, I grew up in an environment where getting by was just the standard, was getting by. And it was a scarcity mindset kind of environment. And when I got to a point in my life, I just realized that was something I never wanted. I worked as an employee for, I think, 12 years approximately. But when I was 30, I kind of realized, going, man, you know what? I can't keep doing this for somebody else. I can't keep grinding for somebody else. I can't keep working hard for somebody else. I need to do something for me. So I looked into numerous different types of business. And, obviously I came across our business, which I just found for, the extreme low barrier of entry, the need for what it did, and the upside ability to go have control of my time and really, be in charge of my life. And hey, I'm not putting down being an employee, but for me, I didn't want to be told how much I was worth anymore. I didn't want to be told when I could take a vacation, or if I could take a vacation. And if I wanted to take more vacation, that I wouldn't get paid for it. Right. I didn't want that in my life anymore. So I just wanted to really control my life. And, So I became a part-time entrepreneur for about 4 months, and I came in full-time entrepreneur right after that. And that was 17 years ago now, right? Which is
Wow,
pretty
17 years.
17, right? So I know like Shari said something very nice. She called me a young man, which I appreciate. And we'll go with that today, right? We'll go with that. So it's been 17 years, but you know what? It's been the best 17 years. And kind of to piggyback off what both of you said, the reason I love being an entrepreneur is you never have it all figured out, right? You're always growing. You're always learning. There's always a new challenge. And I think challenges are a good thing. Most of the world look at challenges as this bad thing. I think challenges are a good thing because that's where we really grow, right? I find that's true.
Isn't it crazy, Chad? Like we don't have, maybe in some schools, but majority of our schools in Canada, we don't have access to personal development or even entrepreneurial skills.
Yeah, I could go off on a tangent right now on that, but I won't. But it is. It's pretty crazy. It's and like I said, this is my belief. I believe schools taught us to be an employee. That's it. It's basically taught us to follow instruction and not think too far outside the box. And I'd love it. I'd love it if schools taught more about being an entrepreneur and had a bit of personal development and taught us about money and I don't know, some important things. It's great. I dissected a frog in grade 12, which comes in handy on a weekly basis. Like every week it comes in super handy. No, it doesn't. But, I could have used some more practical things in my life coming out of school, which would have been nice.
Yeah.
100%. I totally agree with that. And, just to highlight something that you said is you were talking about how school grooms you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we go into the employee mindset. It's, to me, looking back at it, it's almost like prison.
Mm-hmm.
It's teaching us to fall in line, follow the rules, don't think outside the box. And it's like a prison,
It is.
And I personally just couldn't sit in prison anymore.
I'm with you.
My mind needed to grow. And I believe that a lot of our listeners, because if they're listening, that's their mindset too. They need to grow. So this is going to be amazing to continue talking about. Chad, just a question for you. When did you start your personal development journey?
Yeah, that's a great question. And to be honest, when I really think about it, I actually start my very first set of personal development tapes. I borrowed my mom's boss's Tony Robbins tapes.
Oh
So
my
if
God.
you're a younger listener, it's not a CD and
That's
it's
a
not
long time ago.
it's a tape. So I remember doing these tapes, and I was in my mid 20s, early 20s. And I just wanted to grow more. I was in some debt that I wanted to get out of. I wasn't happy with where I was at. So I started doing these tapes. And it was crazy. I was literally got out of debt within 3.5 months. I was happier than I'd ever been. And I thought, man, this personal development thing is pretty cool. So it's always something I kind of dabbled in. But I'd say when I really truly started investing, Tanisha, in my personal development, probably would have been, when did I get married? 2012. So probably 2013, 2014. So it's been about 10 years now. And my wife, who Charlene mentioned, who is amazing and she is beautiful. And I hope when she does podcasts that the host says her husband's beautiful.
Yes.
But she, as a wedding present, she bought me us a trip to a personal development retreat in California. And honestly, that retreat changed my life. And ever since then, I've just been a fan of getting myself in an environment once to twice a year that's uncomfortable. That's not usually my home city, where I can go learn and develop and grow. Now, am I perfect? Absolutely not. But I'm working on it, and that's part of the journey. If it's like anything, if you want to keep learning, you got to keep doing it. And there's so many great aspects of it. It's the same as fitness. There's not just one workout that works. There's so many different workouts that work. There's so many different aspects of fitness. It's the same with personal development. So I'd say it's been about 10 years now since I've actually really, been diving into it.
Well, and that's, like you mentioned, the gym. I mean, people go to the gym and like you say, there's tons of different workouts. And I just had a thought, Chad, and your experiences this as I am with your dad and my dad. because they are in Alzheimer or dementia.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like my dad was so smart, and I'm sure your dad was too, and like, he uses his brain a lot. But I feel like what happened with my dad is once they sold out their business, they didn't have the next goal or
Mm-hmm.
purpose. And I feel like my dad probably declined because he wasn't using his brain as he should have been.
Yeah.
Like, so I guess my question in a roundabout way is, how do you continually set the next standard or your next goal or your next achievement?
Mm-hmm. Good question, Sharon. I love what you said there because I couldn't agree more with it. You know, I think, I think as people in this world, I mean, you see people who are living these amazing lives in their 80s and 90s. And the one thing they all have in common is they have a purpose, right? They
Yeah.
have a goal. They have something that they're looking forward to. And, I noticed my dad's health really declined when he retired. COVID hit. They were stuck in the house. He really had no purpose. And that's when his health declined. And I unfortunately, I see that in a lot of people. So for me, it's just always about, what's next. And it's about, I always have a 3-year plan. I like to have a 3-year plan. So I really know where I'm going because the next year excites me. But what really excites me is where we can be in 3 years. And it starts with little things. It starts with little daily disciplines. It starts with daily goals. It starts with keeping promises to yourself. Like this morning I got up, turned the Christmas tree lights on and did my morning routine where I journal. And, I just wrote down my important goals by March 1st. So that excites me because that's 3.5 months down the road. And the thing I like about them, I'm a big fan of like SMART goals, right? So like, are they specific? Are they measurable? Are they attainable? Are they realistic? And what's the time frame? So I have long-term goals and I have small-term goals, but a mentor of mine told me it's kind of like a campfire, right? You have to have these big logs, which are your big goals, where if you think about a campfire, those take longer to burn. But what gets the fire going? It's those little pieces of wood. It's the pieces of paper, right? It's the things that catch fire really quick and are a little easier to catch fire that help eventually burn down the big logs. So it's the same thing for me. It's always about making sure I'm hitting those little goals, whatever it might be. I have 4 types of goals. So I have a business goal. I have a spirituality goal. I have a fitness goal. And then I have a personal goal, which can be anything I want. It can be spiritual. It can be physical. It can be financial. It can be whatever I want. But I always have 4 things I'm working on at any one given time. And it just keeps the excitement and it keeps you fresh. It keeps the mind always in the game. And the way I think about it is I played a lot of sports, but when I was playing basketball, if I wasn't in the game and paying attention, I could have a pass hit me in the head. Right. And it's the same thing. If we're not in the game and focused, I mean, life could hit us in the head. Now life will hit us, but when we have a plan and we have a purpose, even though life hits us, I find it's a little easier to deal with life, right? Where unfortunately a lot of people get hit in the head and they don't have a purpose. So the purpose now becomes the problem.
Yep.
Right. So their problem becomes the purpose instead of the purpose and just dealing with the problem. Right. So instead of always being focused here, they get hit with a problem and it's like all my focus is on the problem and all my energy is on the problem and everything else goes away. So
that's really interesting that you say that your focus is on the problem. Just a little story back when my daughter was in high school and she was taking an exam, because we all love exams, right? And she was so focused on not passing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, look, what do you need to pass? Like, what's your bare minimum? Like, right? And she's like, well, I need 60% or whatever it was. And I'm like, right, 60%, 60, put on your table if you can. And then every time you come across a question, just look at that 60, look at that 60. And she passed.
Yeah.
But she was taking her mind off of the not being able to pass.
Well, it's crazy. And I don't know if you guys know this, and I don't know if the listeners, if you guys know this, when race car drivers are in training, right? So they're obviously operating at a high speed. There's a lot of danger. When they start to spin out, they're taught to look at where they want to go, not look at where they're headed. So it's the same thing. If you're driving and you start to lose control, if you're looking at the pole, your chances of hitting the pole drastically increase.
Oh yeah.
If you're spinning out of control and you're looking at the safe road out, your chances of hitting the safe road out drastically increase, right? So it's exactly where that focus goes.
That's crazy. We used that when we were high into horses and
Mhm.
barrel racing and doing all that stuff, right? We didn't focus at the barrel because then we're going to take the barrel out. We always
Yeah.
had to focus on the next, position that we wanted our horses to be in. So it's
Absolutely.
crazy because Kaylee and I were so into horses. It actually brought into our lives how to, like you said, look at where you're going, not so you don't crash your
And
horse.
that's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. That's incredible. I absolutely love that. So, to all of our listeners, that was a huge nugget that probably just changed my life. I did take a couple of notes here because, what Chad has just said is so vitally important is that we need to have these goals set. We need to be knowing where to put our mindset because what we think about, we bring about. Because our thoughts become our words become our thoughts become our actions, and our actions become our behaviors.
And that's
So if
good
we're
or bad.
focused on the problem,
Yeah.
it's going to be a problem. Whereas if we're focused on the possibilities, it's just a challenge on the road.
Absolutely. And I'll just add to that, Tanisha, if you think what most people, in my experience of people, talk about, it's how's it going? And for most people, that response starts with, oh, right. So it's kind of like, and like I said earlier, that's the environment I grew up in. It was always, the focus was how much we didn't have, right? How hard it was, how life wasn't fair, how all these different things. So what I've learned through my personal growth journey is that it's our choice, right? Now, and trust me, you go talk to a lot of successful people. You talk to myself and my wife, or anyone I know who's very successful. We have problems too. Everyone has problems, right? They don't go away. It's just how we choose to really focus on them, right?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, that's exactly it. So, Chad, you mentioned your morning routine is
Mhm.
you get up and you journal and you focus on your four goals. For our listeners, is there like three main activities that you would recommend them adding to their daily list of
Mm.
things that they do so that they can get on their own personal development journey?
100%. I mean, I think, and this is just from experience and people, all the stuff I've done is that number one thing is you got to move your body somehow in the morning. Whether it's you go for a 20-minute walk, right? You hit the gym, whatever. It's so important to get your body moving, right? It's so important to give your body that time to just wake up. And if you actually look at the studies, even just getting up and going for a 20-minute walk outside, just with the energy of everything around us and the negative ions of trees and nature and everything, what that does to your body first thing in the morning is actually incredible. So I think you got to move your body in the morning, right? You have to move your body. Number two is I'm a big fan of journaling personally. Here's why. This is new to me. And I was working with one of my coaches and she just said, why don't you journal? And I said, I don't know how to do it. And she said, Chad, there's no how to do it. You just do it. She's like, there's no right, there's no wrong. You just do it. And I said, well, my writing's terrible. She said, I don't care. No one's going to read it anyway.
It is.
So the whole purpose of journaling is that you take your thoughts and you get them out of your head onto paper.
Yeah.
Right. And what that does subconsciously is that instead of us hanging on to things, we can actually start to let things go. Right. So even if it's something little, like, man, this guy cut me off yesterday, I was so angry. I'm going to journal about it so I can let it go. Right. So I just love journaling and everything comes out. Right. So if if it's good, if it's bad, it all goes on that piece of paper so that I can leave it there. Right. So that it's left on that piece of paper. It's out of here. Instead of it sitting in here and festering and growing, it's on that journal. It's out of me. Right. I can focus and I'm more clear on my day. Okay. And then I think the third one is you have to go over your goals or go over your plan. Right. So I go over my business plan. I read my business plan every morning. And then I do my four goals that I spoke about. So those are three things. I mean, I'll give you two more that I think spending a few minutes in gratitude is amazing.
It's huge.
This morning I just sat there with my coffee, looked at the Christmas tree, and I just thought of all the things I'm grateful for in my life. And, it brought me to a point this morning where I was emotional, because I was just so grateful for what we've been blessed with and the life we have and the people that I have in my life. But I think gratitude is a forgotten thing for a lot of people. And we all have tough things going on, but we have more than most people in the world,
Yeah.
and I think gratitude's a huge thing. And depending on your spirituality, prayer, and those are the things I do every morning. But I think three things for sure. Number one, you got to move your body. It's so important to move your body,
Yeah.
and then there's lots. You can meditate, you can do whatever, depending on your spiritual background. But those are kind of what that's what works for me. And you guys got to find what works for you, right? We're all different people. So what might work for me might not necessarily work for you guys or any of the listeners on this call.
I 100% agree with your moving your body. It is one of the most impactful things I do with my day is getting up and just moving. It helps my mindset. It helps me feel successful already. I'm like, I did it.
Mm-hmm.
I did it, and then that moment of gratitude, whenever I'm starting to get into that negative loop, because let's face it, we all get into a loop at some point. We're going, oh, this has gone wrong. This is not happening right. I'm not on track for this. We can get into it. But if you just take 5 minutes and recognize that that's where you're at
Yeah.
and start thinking about all of the things that are great, you're grateful for that day, whether it be, you know what? My sister called me and said hello. That was a great
Awesome.
thing. I'm so glad I got to talk to her. It can be simple things, but as soon as you shift that mindset into, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that I got a quiet cup of coffee this morning. I'm
Mm-hmm.
grateful that the roads were clear. Then all of a sudden it shifts and those negative things fall away and you
Absolutely.
can smile again. You can be peaceful.
Yeah, it does. It creates an energy in your body, it's just what we talked about earlier. Are you focused on the pole or the path out, right? Like it's no different. And even what you just said, Tanisha, I love what you said there. But when you do get up and keep that promise to yourself, everyone, where you do move your body, it automatically gives you a boost in your personal integrity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's just a 20-minute walk, you said, because the night before you said, I'm going for a 20-minute walk, you get up, you do it. Guess what you did? You just kept a promise to yourself. Like I just got goosebumps thinking, but you just kept a promise to yourself and you just went, man, Kay, awesome. Like you're starting your day with a promise to yourself. And if you think about it, it's no different than if you have children on this or a spouse or anyone you care about. I want you to imagine you made a promise to that child every morning. Hey, buddy, we're going to do this tomorrow morning. And you get up and you don't do it. How's that kid going to feel and how are you going to feel about that? And you do that again and again and again. Well, hey, guess what? That child is just you, right? That's our inner child. So when we keep that promise, Tanisha, like you said, yeah, it's an amazing way to start the day. And it just creates so much more personal self-integrity, which makes for a better day. So
Integrity is such an important part of who we are because I have found over the years, just my own personal experience, that the person I lied to the most was myself.
100%.
And it
100%.
We all
made me
do.
feel really, I'm going to swear, shitty
Yeah.
every day, you
Yeah.
know? And when I started keeping those promises to myself, then all of a sudden I felt like I could keep my promises to my other family, like my people, my kids,
Yeah.
my husband. And that integrity just holds so much weight in your
Mm-hmm.
daily life.
Mm-hmm. It does.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think probably myself and Charlene and everyone listening to this has probably done the same thing, right? The number one person we let down, unfortunately, the most is ourselves.
Mhm.
And when I learned about keeping promises to yourself, and somebody gave me an example. They said, imagine every single day the person that you love most, you let down every single day. You broke all your promises to them. You didn't keep your word, right? How's that relationship going to be?
Not very
Not
good.
good. And that
Not
person
good.
that I believe we should love the most is ourselves,
Mhm.
right? So you keep those promises to yourself, you have a better relationship with yourself, you have a better relationship with everybody else.
And
Yeah.
that's huge because you have to start with you
Mm-hmm.
to make a change in anything.
Yep.
It
Mhm.
has to start with you. So
Yep.
you can't, like, if I want Tanisha to quit eating sugar, but I'm eating sugar every day, how can I ask her to do that?
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have to quit the sugar fix before I say, Tanisha, hey, I know what would help you.
Absolutely.
Hey, you know what? Charlene and I have mentioned this in several podcasts. We need to practice what we preach.
Yep.
We
Yeah,
can't have all the answers and not be practicing it
it's so
ourselves.
it's so important, and I think that I unfortunately think that's one of the problems with our world is
Exactly.
that there's a lot of preachers right now and not a lot of practicing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and it's something, it's responsibility, and that was one of the biggest lessons I've learned through personal development is taking personal responsibility.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh, huge.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that is
So
huge.
yeah, it's massive. And I mean, when you can finally get to a point, from my personal experience, when I guess I should say when I got to a point in my life where I realized I'm responsible for everything, man, my life got easier. Right. Because what it does is shifted me from victim mode to responsible mode. And there's so much more power being responsible. Right. And I
Mhm.
had a mentor of mine say to me, when the co-founder of our company said, "Hey, Chad, you got to be so personally responsible that if you're outside and a meteor falls on you, right, it's not the meteor's fault."
No.
He said, "You chose to stand there." Right. And even when anything bad, if anything bad happens to me or something happens to me that I don't necessarily like, I get to choose how I respond to it.
Yep.
Right. So I found for me, coming from a place of personally responsible completely helped shifted me out of victim mentality, because I grew up in a victim mentality household, and we had the same opportunity as everyone else.
Yep.
Right. Everyone probably listening has the exact same opportunity as everyone else. Right. But it's what we choose to take on. Like when something happens, even if it's not my fault or unavoidable, I still get to choose how I respond to it.
That's huge.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really important. That was one of the biggest things for me through my last, 10 plus years of personal development, was really accepting personal responsibility.
Yeah. Because
Mhm.
you can react or you can respond.
100%. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And how you respond matters. And as a mom, and I'll just put it out there, I had 3 extra children for the last 5 days, and I'm telling you that it was very difficult in moments to be to take that choice and to respond instead of react.
Yeah.
Okay. And there was there was a lot of moments where I got to choose into power and to choose into responsibility for what was
Yeah.
going on in the moments. So this goes into life in all aspects, parenting, relationships, business, everything is choices matter.
Absolutely. Yeah.
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 Absolutely.
And that's the one, the biggest thing too is like, okay, we go do a personal development course and we're like, oh yes, it was so great. But how do you, I think, well, you already gave us a bunch of answers, but Chad, you've gone away for a week down to San Diego to do one of your courses and you come back. And then sometimes we can get lost in our day to day.
Mhm.
Like, how do you take your week long gone away course, come home, and now keep building on that momentum?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Sharks. I think that's a challenge a lot of people run into. Number one is we have to already be in an understanding that it's not a quick fix,
Exactly.
right? I think a lot of people go to a course, and they're like, well, that didn't work for me. And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, well, I did it 3 weeks ago and nothing's changed. I'm like, okay, like, let's get off the instant gratification wagon that we all live on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's understand that things take time and they take work. But my question is, it's like, again, it all comes back to personal responsibility and choice. You're going to go invest a certain amount of money into yourself, and you're going to come back. Why wouldn't you be reviewing that material every day? Why wouldn't you be trying to implement what you learned in your life, right? Because you just invested probably thousands of dollars in yourself to go do this. Yet you're going to come back and just people expect it to be different. No, it still takes work,
Yeah.
right? And it's like buying a new car and never driving it. You invest all this money into something, and it's like, oh man, the car is such a waste of money. Well, how often do you drive it? Oh, I don't. Well, you got to put in the work, So it's like, and that's why I think it's such an important thing, Shar. One course isn't going to change somebody's life. Like I know I mentioned mine changed my life, but it changed my life to go do more.
Yes.
Right. I knew that one course wasn't the answer, but it gave me the feeling going, wow, if I feel this way doing one, what if I went and did more? Right. And I hear some people say, they're like, oh, the courses aren't the answer and it's not going to change. And I'm like, hey, that's your choice. And if that's how you want to choose to feel, great. But I think those people also look at it going, well, I didn't see a change in that person in a week. Right. So we have to understand that it's not like I do something and I grow and next month, my life is totally different and I'm making all the money I want to make and all my relationships are perfect. No, but it gives you tools, right? If I go build a house, I'm not going to have it done in a day, especially if I only have a hammer and a saw.
Yeah, right.
That's going to take a long time. But guess what? The more tools I add, the easier that it gets to build that house, right? And then that house gets to a certain size, but I've outgrown that house here. I need to keep building onto that house, right? So I get more tools, which makes the job easier. And I build an extra room for this and an extra room for that. And the more tools I have, the easier it is to build the home. Is it easy to build a home? No, it's a lot of work. Life is a lot of work. Relationships are a lot of work. Business is a lot of work. But the more tools you have to build what you want, the more fun the journey is. And in my opinion, when problems arise, because they always do, that's life. When problems arise, you have the tools to use to help you get through those times.
Yeah. And that's just like you said, like, it's not like a quick fix because, like I said earlier, where you are today, everything you've done has brought you to where you are today. So,
absolutely,
which can be good and there's no right or wrong. But if you want to make those changes, it could have taken you 45 years to get to this point. A week long isn't going to like fix it all.
No, exactly. It's
like losing weight. Well, it took you, 4 years to put on 30 pounds. You're not going to lose 30 pounds in 1 week.
Sure, that's such a good point. It's kind of like if I got a car that's 45 years old, and let's be honest, hasn't really been that well maintained for 45 years. And I put a new battery in it and expect it to be a brand new car, I'm out to lunch.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of parts in a car that would probably need to be revamped to get it to where it wants to be.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Yeah. 100%. Awesome. Well, you know what? Thank you, listeners, for being here with us today. I truly believe that that you listening to this is your first step into your personal development journey. But Chad, let's just leave our listeners with maybe a book or something that you would recommend to help our listeners start their journey, something that really has affected you in a positive manner.
Wow, man, that's a tough question.
There's so many, right?
There's so many. I'll leave you with the guys with a few things if that's okay, because everyone's different. As far as there's two books I think everyone should read in their life, and that's Think and Grow Rich and How to Win Friends and Influence People. If people read those two books and never read anything else, I think they'd have an amazing life, right? Because it's all about mindset. As far as, and everyone's different. Some people learn a lot from books. I'm an experiential learner, right? So I like to be involved in experiences. So for me, the Clemmer programs have worked amazing. Right? Yeah. Because it's all experiential. I get to actually use the tools while I'm learning it, almost like an apprenticeship training program. That's been a great program for me, right? Man, there's so many good podcasts out there, right? Especially this one. This is like the best one. But, I think listening to guys like Ed Milet, right? Mm-hmm. And I just don't think there's one right answer to this. It's the more you can listen to and learn and read, the better you're going to be. But here's the thing. And Shar, you mentioned this earlier. You can read all the books. You can go to all the courses. You can listen to every podcast. But if you don't take responsibility and put it into action, it doesn't matter. I know a lot of people who have read all the books and they've went to all the courses and they're the exact same place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is they haven't made any changes in their life.
Mm-hmm.
They expect all these outside things to change them, where again, it's 100% on us to go make those changes for ourselves in our life. It's just, those are just the tools. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
And that's amazing. And I 100% second those books. And I 100% second the Clemmer journey. I am in process and working on that journey every day. And I can't say enough good things about that experiential journey.
yep,
So, yeah, I agree.
awesome.
Awesome.
Well, you guys, this has been amazing. Thank you so much, Chad, for taking time out of your
Thank
busy
you
life
guys.
and joining us on our adventure of podcasting, which is pretty cool. We're
It's
having
very
so much
cool.
fun with
Very
it.
excited for you guys. It's awesome.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, just by doing this, Chad, for Tanisha and I feel like, well, we have to practice what we're preaching, right? So for myself personally, I'm like, oh yeah, I said this to everybody listening, so I best be doing that when nobody's looking and listening. So it's really helped me a lot become more responsible for me.
Absolutely, 100%. You guys, the teacher is the one who generally learns the most,
Yes.
right? So I just want to acknowledge you guys for doing this. This is amazing, and yeah, you guys, you know, I'm just excited because I'll be honest, you guys are going to get the most out of it. The listeners are going to get a lot out of it, but you guys are going to get a lot out of it. I got a ton out of it today, just being on. So I agree, and I'm really excited for you guys. So I just want to congratulate you on this.
Awesome. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Chad. And yeah, just been an absolute pleasure today. And I hope everybody that's listening joins us next week for another exciting podcast. Right?
Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
guys.
Bye, everybody.